an offshoot minor bureaucrat of an important Shandong clan with over 80 members. In no more than 24 years, he grew into one of the most brilliant and precious Taoist philosophers of his day. His clan peaked in power during the Han Dynasty, when the education system was still well funded by the state and its private investors. Training in the Confucian classics was mandatory for all officials, and there was an active program of suppression for alternative thought. The preceding civil wars put many officials with the authority to teach in danger, so they fled in all directions to get away from the fighting. During this era, the interests of many, but not all elites, began to shift away from Confucianism towards Taoism. Although Confucian scholars were still needed because of their knowledge in state rituals and administrative manners, movements such as the Celestial Masters started popping up, and by Wang Bi's time, Taoism was very much in the air. It was chance that put arguably the richest, most intellectually diverse manuscript library into Wang's possession during the Tao Wei state. It greatly aided him as he continued his clan's tradition of displaying great intellectual ambition. He wrote commentaries on the Confucius Analects, the Tao Te Ching and the I Ching, with the latter two surviving in more than just quotations. They have gone on to greatly influence Chinese thought, plus several translations of his commentaries on the two classics have also been made into English. His philosophy is aimed at the ruler, and his quest was for the fundamental basis of social order. At the same time, his friend He Yan held ultimate authority over a similar government reform project that merged Confucianism and Taoism. Together, they became two of the founders of the Taoist Xuanshui school of thought. He Yan was not able to achieve prominence under Cao Pi or Cao Rui, but he was able to integrate himself with Cao Shuang's inner circle under Cao Fang, which is when Wang Bi became promoted into office. He Yan drafted a detailed commentary on the Tao Te Ching, but after he compared his with the much younger Wang Bi's, he felt his was inferior, so just produced a more general and broad text instead. Wang Bi respected the scholars of his time for their talents of reading and writing, but he rejected the art itself. He highlighted the philosophical warning about the future generations' inability to decipher what they wrote, or the writings themselves becoming destroyed or lost. Henceforth, Wang Bi's entire enterprise became philosophical rather than school-dominated. The thoughts and ideas on many different texts from many different schools became abandoned, and so was their habit of ranking their own founders as the highest. Personally, he ranked Confucius over Lao Tzu, as he did not write a book but only edited what became classics. Confucius also allowed his students to make records of him when he was speaking, which went on to become the Analects. Thus, Wang Bi judged Confucius as superior in understanding the philosophical problem of definitory language. At one time, however, Wang Bi held a low opinion of Confucius because he was capable of expressing great joy and sorrow. Wang later decided that emotions belong to human nature and that even a sage can only react like a human. The difference between a sage and a normal person is that the sage will not be ensnared by their emotions. Wang Bi outshone everyone in his brilliance and consistent use of his commentary on meaning. He studied the written classics because it was the simplest way to preserve the sage-old teachings, but he considered them as pointing to something beyond themselves, that they had a deeper meaning. His students were told to look beyond the textual surface of the works to their elusive common object. For example, Wang Bi once extracted a political philosophy from the teachings about schools that he applied to the relationship between the ruler and the people. He argued that past kings follow the classic texts, but they end up bringing about the very chaos they were elected to prevent. Only by going back to the fundamental dynamic between the one and the many can laws be made which successfully govern the shifting dynamics found within any kingdom. As he explored this idea, which became known as the 10,000 kinds of things, he pointed out that the one can only be considered so if he is indeed separate from the rest, otherwise the one would just be another of the existing multitude. This leads to him needing to adopt a non-interference relationship with the populace, giving his theoretical absolute power over them. The 30-year civil war which ended the Han Dynasty was a timely reminder of the vicious circle between the efforts to establish order and the counterproductive methods used to do so. Generous encouragement of one virtuous person provokes the resentment from many more. Attempts to use surveillance to ward away evil instead inspires people to hide their secrets in even more clever ways. Wang Bi claimed that a ruler must not just maintain order, but also bring back society. By using a policy of non-interference, he allows the 100 families time to find peace and a chance to rise from the chaos in a natural way. He believed the ruler could display public performances of non-action in different ways, projecting simplicity, awkwardness, dumbness, or femininity. He also pointed to the abolition of state surveillance, which had become a great hindrance for many officials of Wei during this time. The consequence would be the 100 families falling back to their natural stations. Then the self-regulating mechanisms come into play in the same manner as they do in nature. Heaven and earth do not make grass for the cattle, but the cattle still eats the grass. He Yan's project met its end when the Sima family took control of the government and Cao Shuang's faction were all rounded up and executed. Wang B, who was also a member of Cao Shuang's inner circle, coincidentally died the same year as his colleagues. It's recorded that he died from infection during a plague epidemic in 249. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.